used to look at
They'd
the
be like,
camera.
watch. Well, and then what's weird is our cameras in the worship center. If it's the green light, we're coming to that camera.
Yeah.
And the red light is the camera you're at.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. Red light means stop talking to this camera and go to the green light.
Yeah.
Go,
Red means recording.
Yeah, well,
Red means you're recording in your live. So.
Well, red means stop to the rest of the world.
Youth Group 98, making memories in the middle of the week, getting sugar wasted on the sunny days till it's time to leave. Group 98, Youth Group 98. Youth Group 98.
So, all right. Well, welcome to the podcast, Youth Group 1998. You ready, Adam?
I'm pretty excited about this.
It's going to be fun. We're going to take a look back at the things that were happening in the church, youth culture in the late 90s, early 2000s. We're going to find out some stuff that maybe we should never do again. We're also going to find some stuff that we should continue to repeat. Along the way, we're going to laugh a lot and figure out that maybe these are the things that formed us. So I'm excited about that. I am here with the two Adams. I'm stuck, as always, between two Adams. Adam Myers across from me and Adam Farnsworth over there, making us sound and look great. So thank you for your work. Got it cut out for you. Today, Adam, talking about Halloween. You probably, I'm guessing, have some memories of Halloween as a kid, a teen. Let's start there. And then we can move through what it was like being like on the pastor side of Halloween for the church. What was it like for you? Think about 1998. How old were you?
Yeah. So, 98. I was still in junior high. I think I was in ninth grade.
Ninth grade.
So,
Okay. Oh, that's right. Because here, ninth grade was still the junior high. You didn't get to go to high school till 10th grade.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the math, right? I'm born in 83, 93. I'm 10. So, what is that? 15?
15,
yeah. I'm
15 or so.
I'm 15 years old in 98. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it's spooky season, right?
Yeah.
I love a good spooky season.
Do you?
I do.
Do you like to be scared?
So I like the innocent fun idea of Halloween. So like I grew up in one of those typical neighborhoods where you had cul-de-sacs and, everybody knew everybody. And so, Halloween night was fun.
Okay.
Because you got to dress up, and I was one of those nerdy kids who made my own costumes. So I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Probably looked like a fool.
What was your
everybody
when
else.
you say you made your own costume, like out of cardboard and stuff, or like what did you?
Anything.
What's the one that sticks out?
So like I was into GI Joes, pretty heavy, and so I think that's the thing, right? Because you and we grew up in an era in Adam where the costumes were pretty bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Actually, borderline dangerous. Like I remember the plastic costumes.
Oh yeah, with like the little eye
The
holes
little eye
in the
holes
mask.
and like the plastic shirts,
Yeah.
And so if you got too close to a light bulb, that thing melted. And so, it's not like kids today. Kids today they have no clue how cool they have it because, you can look like Captain America.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, it's got built-in muscles. I had to pad my muscles with towels, and so I would dress up like a GI Joe almost every year, but I would make my own costume, and so to me it was cool, and but no, it was fun, there was something when I grew up that was just fun and magical about that night. And then you got to get the candy, you know, and then, I was a Disney Channel kid. And so there was always like a Disney kind of movie.
No, that's true. They I think ABC even or someone like a network would put like on a Halloween night would put like a show on.
And it was like, and then
Casper.
And that was like the sitcom era too, that was real big, right? Like Home Improvement, Full House, Family Matters, and everybody always had a Halloween episode. And they were fun.
Yeah.
So growing up as a kid, it was a lot of fun. And my mom and dad, I know we'll get to this because your parents handled it a little differently. My mom and dad, they let me have fun with it, but we never dug deep into any of the real spooky, scary stuff. So so it was.
But that was when you were a kid. It was fun. Did you like that feeling of being scared? I liked
the suspense of it, like I still love a good jump scare.
Yeah.
In terms of, but you know, I never, so the other flip side was my mom, you know, for some reason was, you know, she was like, yeah, spooky season, Halloween, let's have some fun. And on, I remember like a rare occasion, she even decorated the house. So it was kind of weird. But then like, I could barely watch a PG-13 movie, you know? So there was no, it was, my mom was real weird. So like, I didn't, you know, I never saw anything super scary back then. And even to this day, I'm not like a super scary person thing. Yeah. But like, if you're like, hey, let's go to a corn maze and they're going to maybe jump out and scare you. I like that. Still. That's fun.
Farnsworth, do you like to be scared? Are you into it?
Not really. There was a time I can't watch this horror movies that are out now. Oh, anything that's like grotesque or
same.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Yeah. And I'll tell you this, my biggest fears are zombies and anything demon.
Yeah, no, for real.
Zombies is the thing that, you know, is probably fantasy, but to me, anything possession or demonic, I think that's too real for me.
That's too close to home.
Yeah, I love that he puts
too real.
I love that he has put zombies in a category of probably not real.
Yeah. So I gotta tell you this though, is that normally they're not too bad. I grew up, I love Michael Myers, that type of.
Okay.
That's what I dressed as when I was younger. We would go to my buddy's house and we would just deck out his house with fog machines and everything, and be 3 or 4 of us all dressed up, and because he lived right by City Park, it's a perfect neighborhood, and he would have a bucket on his porch, and we would just kind of roam around the yard, and kids, we had the block people just watching. WTAP came and interviewed us and stuff like. We did that for like 4 years.
That's awesome.
So I loved, I did that, but.
It's way better than my homemade costume.
Well, that was the only thing that I bought. I was homemade too. I went as a headless football player. I had a football player costume, but then I didn't just go as a football player. Like I had my mom make a longer shirt and talk about dangers. I had eye holes that you couldn't see. Yeah. And a helmet, and you know, she put like a fake head in there that I held, you know. And awesome. I always kind of did my own stuff too. I was always some type superhero or something. I made something up like that, you know. But I can watch zombie movies and stuff, but what did me in was going to Eric Leeson's house on a Sunday night, and he just started watching The Walking Dead because that was really big however many years ago. Yeah. We watched 2 episodes that night. That ruined it for me.
Done. No more.
I had to go home, and I was married at the time. We were living in a rental house. We had a puppy.
Oh my goodness, you're married?
So he wasn't a kid.
Wait, you weren't a kid?
No. I'm telling you, this is when it ruined it for me. I watched Dawn of the Dead. I watched all those old, you know, zombie movies and stuff like that. Fine.
Yeah, I can't believe
I watched The Walking Dead, and I was done.
It got like real when you saw The Walking Dead. Like this is what this would be like.
I had to go take the puppy and take him outside, and I'm like circling, like I was flashlight, because you know. And I did not want to get in bed because that to me was like, she's just going to roll over and just eat me. You know what I mean? Like I took my phone and like, is she warm? Is she breathing? You know, it messed me up.
You're out of control.
And because it was too realistic.
And here's what's crazy. I agree with everything you're saying. Like I don't watch scary movies at all. Yeah. I'm a really visual person, and I absorb emotion. So I can't see trauma. I can't see any of that stuff. I stay away from it. The possession stuff, 100%, because that is absolutely real. But here's the weird thing. I like a good zombie movie.
You do like a good zombie movie.
I will watch.
You do like a good zombie movie.
It is weird. It's kind of like my mom. She's like, yeah, let's go in and have some fun during spooky season, and then everything else was super strict. So that's
probably the zombie thing for you though. I think is probably more into that like you see like you're learning. Oh, that's how we'll survive. Yeah. Oh, that was smart. Oh, don't go in there. Like you're playing along.
Yeah. And I will say though that I worked at Lowe's at the time. I had a whole plan because I had some long nights where I worked in delivery, and I would pull the loads, and I would get in the back. I would get on the order picker, which is like you stand on a pallet and you're tethered in and you raise up. I could see the entire store. I had a plan. I knew what I was doing. If it started happening, you know, like in the movies.
Sure.
I know how I'm getting forklifts, pallets of concrete, blocking the doors, Walmart was right next door. I was figuring out a way how we were going to jump into the box truck and back it up to its bay, load it up for, I had all this strategic plan.
Worked it
Because
out.
I was bored and I had time. So
No, it was good. Fear will do that to you.
What about
Yeah.
you? What's your background as a kid?
So I'm older than both of you. So I actually was a kid, like right in the middle of the Satanic Panic, which we'll probably do an episode on that at some point. But there was this overwhelming fear of Halloween. And I think Christian parents were afraid of Halloween. So you didn't really want your kids trick-or-treating because you didn't want somebody snatching them. You didn't want them to, somehow eat a LSD-laced Tootsie Roll. Or you didn't want to accidentally worship Satan by trick-or-treating, which sounds like it's very hyperbolic, but some of that was real. Like there was real fear of that. So I grew up in the age of the church doing the Halloween alternative, like the Harvest Festival or the Holy Ghost Weenie Roast or whatever you want to call it. Ours was called the Pumpkin Patch, and it was pretty edgy. You could dress up, but you had to either be a farmer or a pumpkin. And you would go dressed up, and it was the typical fall festival. I would assume we played games, you made crafts, and then to their credit, now I'm sure at some point someone tried to get these rowdy kids in costume to sit down so they could tell them about Jesus. I'm sure that was a part of the plan.
Yeah.
And I'm old enough that I'm quite certain that a flannel graph was probably involved. But they gave us the largest bag of candy that I think I ever maybe consumed on a Halloween. Yeah. I mean, it was massive. And it was the good stuff. So it was like the church family was like, hey, we got to keep these kids safe. We don't want them out doing trick or treat. So let's do this alternative. So for a while, like there were a few years in my childhood when I was not allowed to trick or treat.
Yeah.
But you could go to the Harvest Festival or the pumpkin patch. And it really was just as good from a candy standpoint. But then there were years like after that, I don't know if like I got older and my parents felt safer or maybe it just sort of died down. I was able to trick or treat, but we never did costumes. Like you could do one of two costumes. You could either wear last year's Little League baseball uniform and be a baseball player. Or you could put on the clothes that your mom makes you wear when you have to help your dad fix the car, and you could be a hobo. Like these were your choices.
Was the options in the
that was it.
house.
That was you had one of two options, and but you know what? You get the same candy, so it was economical.
Yeah.
But then somewhere in the 90s, when I was a teen, the movement within the church changed, and it went from being like, we got to do a Halloween alternative, we got to keep kids from doing trick or treat, we got to keep this from happening, and it switched to let's leverage it, let's try to use it, and that brought about the Judgment House.
Yeah.
And I was there like at the beginning of the Judgment House, Hell House.
That was my middle school
move. And here's what's interesting. My take on that, as like at the age of participation, I love a haunted house. I still think a haunted house is I haven't been to one in a decade, or no, more than a decade, but like the whole like go and like you were talking about the suspense, like the building and the adrenaline and what's gonna happen, and this one jumps out and scares you.
Yeah.
Love it. The gory stuff, and I think that's maybe where some of the haunted houses kind of went to, like they got more extreme. That I've never been a fan of that. But in all of that, like being a fan of the haunted houses and all that, I don't think I ever went to a Judgment House. And I don't know. I think once I got invited to go be like a part of one, but for some reason I didn't do it. I wasn't able to, or it was a weekend I wasn't available. But I went to haunted houses all the time when I was young, like the, spooky, scary, suspense building. I went and did that. So you would have thought that being a Christian kid, I would have loved to go to the Judgment House stuff, but I don't have a memory of really doing that. I just have a memory that looking back now, there was this change sort of philosophically or theologically about what to do with Halloween.
Yeah.
Unless it traumatized you and you blocked it from memory.
Listen to some of the stories that you hear on Reddit from people who went through Judgment House. There's a possible reality to that statement. There's maybe some truth in that.
Yeah, no, so that you're describing my middle school experience right now. So I missed out on yours. You know, I was a kid during that season. But I remember being in 7th grade and North, which has always been a big church in the city of Parkersburg, would have this night called Fright Night.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as a middle school or high school kid, it had everything you wanted. Free pizza, giant inflatables.
You're checking a lot of boxes.
You know, it's a Friday night with your friends, and there's a haunted house. So
I would have gone to that.
Yeah.
I would have done, and I'll tell you why I would have done that. The girls would have been there. Like that's like for real. That's why I would have done it.
See, you were playing a different game than I was in middle school.
Well, we got to remember when you were in middle school, I was in high school.
Yeah,
you were playing that game too. You were just a few years coming.
I just wanted to beat Tommy on the inflatable, man, and get some free food. But I remember especially in my middle school years, it was a weird time in my life because we were kind of in between churches and really in between just going to church. So, you know, we were kind of doing the church thing, but we weren't. And so it was just a weird stretch. So, you know, I remember going. So I'm a church kid in terms of like growing up in it. So, we're at church. And so the haunted house is cool. And so it was a weird mix of things. Cause here's what happened. I remember actually some of the things that happened at this haunted house specifically. So, you know, I remember there was one scene when we went through the kitchen and like, there's like a scary looking, you know, cook and, you know, we're touching different things and she's telling us it's eyeballs and it's this, and really it's just noodles and meatballs and stuff, you know, but it's gross. And then there's like that where we're crawling through a cardboard maze and people are slamming it and screaming it. And then there was some really intense scenes.
I love a box maze.
So there was like a couple of different scenes. And I can't remember all of them, but they were touching on like real world issues. And so there was this one scene where, I mean, it was graphic as a 7th grader where this husband and wife are in a fight and the wife shoots the husband. You know, no, we didn't see it. Like we go to leave and then you hear the gunshot. And then there was a scene where like somebody, you know, hung themselves. Like, so it's just this weird thing of like, oh, here, touch some fake eyeballs and things, you know, you're going through a cardboard maze, then, like there's people dying. And then all this stuff happens. And then I remember like the last part is like, we're getting chased out of this like dark place with a chainsaw, you know, and then we're laughing, we're screaming, you know, and then we walk into this room and it's quiet and there's a bunch of chairs. And then someone tells us about Jesus.
You were not expecting that?
I wasn't expecting that. Even though I was a church kid, I just remember being a little shocked when I came in there.
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody's got, like, there were some people that were legit terrified and traumatized by what they just saw. And some people are laughing. But here we are now. Like, we're shifting from this massive emotional moment. And now someone's sharing the gospel. And I just remember being in the 7th grade going, this just feels strange. But I didn't know how to articulate it.
Yeah.
You know, and then when I really, right around 9th grade, I really got serious in my faith and got plugged back into church. And my youth pastor did a very similar thing where it was just a weird mix of stuff. Like there was spooky stuff, there was like stuff from the movies, but then it was mixed with real life stuff.
Yeah, like here's the fun, scary stuff that we talk about, like to build the suspense, jump out and scare you, but then also like, no, these are the real scary things.
I mean, it was a weird one that we did. I mean, like you would literally go, you know, from one scene, you would be like a spooky prison and there's like a scary witch and a scary ghost. And then you would turn the next scene and it was an abortion clinic.
Whoa.
And then by the time you wrap your mind around that, you go the other scene and it's a jump scare.
Yeah.
And the last 2 scenes of this haunted house was the very last scene was a bunch of Roman soldiers whipping Jesus. And then you walked in the sanctuary with soft music and my youth pastor was like, hey, you want to get saved?
Yeah.
And it's like,
you're like, yeah, again, I need to get saved again.
So here
every time. I got saved every time.
So here I am at 9th grade now. At 7th grade, it was weird. But 2 years later, I'm in 9th grade and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be awesome. So many people are going to get saved. And it was... Looking back now, it was very strange.
Maybe they did. Maybe people did get saved.
Yeah,
it was. But
that's
I think
the question, right?
But I think But I do think you're bringing up something interesting because it is very strange. It's very strange in the sense that you would have what would have been fun, and then there was like this almost suspension of reality, fun scare. but then it gets paired with like reality.
Yeah.
And obviously that's the point, right?
Yeah.
You want to leverage the idea of fear and when you're afraid of what could happen, you start taking stock, you start considering things, you start thinking about eternity, you start thinking about heaven, you start thinking about hell. Like that's the whole point.
Yeah.
So you have to make that turn. And what I would say when you look into those things, I would say like these were all well-intended people. They all wanted very, very good things. They all wanted people to know about Jesus. They all wanted people to hear the gospel.
My pastor definitely did.
Yeah, like there was no intention to do that.
Did.
But like I've read stories and we've talked off mic about some people, some things that we experienced from friends of ours or people that we knew that had gone through those types of like judgment houses. And like there's this feeling of like it was fine up until this point. And the point where they start to be, almost hurt, or they started to be like questioning what was happening, was almost always when it was out of the realm of the make-believe and into the realm of the reality.
The real, yeah.
And the way that the real was portrayed was somehow like it was like diminished the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Like someone who's struggling with a mental illness, and then it's like, well, the way they present the mental illness in this is for the scare, and so I struggle with that mental illness, and now I'm the punchline of this joke that is, or this moment of fright, and there was just like a sensitivity that maybe was missed on some of that, but the heart behind it, I think, was really motivated. Well, I think that was what you're trying to do, tell people about Jesus.
And you mentioned, I think, the evolution of this thing, right? In the end, where it kind of has landed, and it's still landed, right? We start with, we're not going to participate, Harvest Festival, Pumpkin Patch, into, let's embrace the spooky culture, but let's throw a little real in there to kind of shake them up. Well, then became this thing, you mentioned it, the Judgment House, right? Or a Hell House, or even a very famous production that's, a lot of churches have, Heaven's Gates, Hell's Flames, right? So that now becomes the evolution of, we're going to go real life. So like Judgment House, I had been to several Judgment Houses when I was in high school. So by the time I get to high school, that's kind of when that scene hits. And basically, there is a scene that plays out from start to finish. So one of the classic scenes is, you have a couple high school kids, and as you move through this house, this church, you get different scenes. So it starts off with kids in high school, then they're at a party, and then there's a car accident. And then there's the reaction to the car accident. And then in the end, the two places that we land is hell and heaven.
Yeah.
And half of the cast go to hell, and the other half of the cast goes to heaven. And then at the end of it, they want you to make a decision for Jesus. Like you said, it's a very well-intentioned thing, but there's a very real thing happening in there. And I mean, and then Heaven's Gates, Hell's Flame is a very famous production that a lot of churches have done.
Sure.
And you've got the whole point of this drama is there's these multiple scenes of everyday life. And some of them are just normal things, like a mom and a dad, or a mom and a kid driving to a car, or there's like a couple guys working at a construction scene. But then there's like some heavy stuff like drug addiction and, abusive situations. And then in those scenes, somebody dies and they stand before the throne of God, and they either go to heaven or hell. And I saw a variation of that when I was about 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
And it scared the hell into me.
Yeah.
Right. It did. And I remember standing up at 9 sobbing because I did not want to go to hell, because I didn't want some demon coming out and dragging me. And so that's like where the evolution goes. And so again, it's like you said, there's this heart to try to share the gospel in a way that's powerful and relevant and impactful. But there are people that are walking into this experience, and we're highlighting a part of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. Have we made them into a character? And what's the damage of that?
Well, I think there's a risk in that, like the sensitivity of like now this scene is a caricature of this person. And I think what is difficult about it, right, is that you do want people to take serious the reality of the things that are really scary.
Yeah.
I remember when I came to Christ at 8 years old, the part that I remember hearing from, I think our church was in revival, and the part that I remember hearing from up front was the part about hell.
Yeah.
And not wanting to go there. And so then asking my dad about that, my dad sharing the gospel with me and leading me to Christ that night afterwards. So like the fear of hell started me down that road. But I remember like my dad telling me, and I don't know if it was then, I don't know that it was when I was 8. It may have been when I was older, but I do remember my dad telling me that heaven is not for people who don't want to go to hell. That heaven is for people who love Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I think my take on the judgment house and those types of situations were maybe the scariness, maybe the fright of it was so much that we led people into decision because they didn't want to go to hell, but they missed, not that necessarily the people putting on the production, they may have done a great job presenting the gospel.
Yeah.
But because of the fright and the extreme nature of it and the big production of it, maybe Jesus was missed in that.
Absolutely.
And so then you had people who made a decision, and it was a decision.
Yes.
They decided they don't want to go to hell, but they didn't make a salvation decision. And maybe we treated people that had not made a decision about salvation as if they had. But really the only decision they had made is no, hell's real and I don't want to go there. But they hadn't really gotten to the heart of the gospel yet. And not that the production
Absolutely.
failed to present it.
Yes.
But I think this is the challenge that I see when we have production type ministries, even the ones that aren't scary, and production type gospel ministries. I think this is the challenge is we know, I think we would all agree, that the gospel moves best through relationship. And that environment was risky for gospel relationships.
Yeah.
Because if you brought your friend, there was a risk. Like that's the meme that goes around. You've probably seen them like, hey, they said, come to my church. It's cool. And then like whatever's happening on the screen is not cool, right? There's that like you're going to violate their trust because like, you bring your friend to our church's haunted house. It's going to be really scary. And then it wasn't. And the friend lost credibility, or the friend felt like the church lost credibility or whatever. You had that going on. You also you brought your friend and they had something going on in their life. The scene you were depicting about the mom and the dad who are arguing and fighting. And this kid comes from a home where mom and dad are arguing and fighting all the time. And now their life is the caricature. It's not real. It's hyperbolic. It's blown up beyond what it really would be. And we've either put fear in this kid that his mom and dad are going to shoot each other, or we've made his situation, made him feel exposed. And so then that hurts the relationship between them and the person that invited them. And then you moved them into this moment of decision. And if we weren't real clear about the gospel presentation, and the friend that was the inviter was not certain on their part in that, as being their friend, continue to talk to them about Jesus, continue to walk. This isn't a one and done thing. Yeah. That we violated the relationships, or we missed that. And I wouldn't say, like, I know people, we know people, they're still doing these types of outreach ministries at Halloween. They're still doing, Judgment House. They're still doing the Hell House type of things. I don't know that I'm out on them. I don't know that I would say they're bad.
That's where I think of, because I grew up, and Adam can attest to this, grew up doing dramas. And so you're talking about these productions and doing these things like Judgment House and things like that. I remember going to those too, but what really stuck to me was growing up in an era where I witnessed a lot of dramas and skits and things like that, but they're all in the same line. I remember the one that changed my life, and of course, looking back, I try to see it, is it because was I scared into, or was it scared out of? But I remember seeing one, and I don't remember all the details, but I remember there was on one corner, because I knew there was an exit door, they set up to make it look like hell. They had the lighting right. They had red light coming through it, and a fog machine, and they were bringing people down the aisle, and they're standing before judgment. And so then you see some that make it into heaven, and some that get cast out. And that was I'm a very visual person, and so that was visually seeing that. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't want that. But even from that, even let's say maybe that was my emotional response at the time, right? But then I continued to see different variations of that come out. Drama called The Advocate, which is showing the gospel, showing the life of Jesus, and things like that. And I remember kind of looking at the things you're saying. I remember us always trying to, no matter what drama we created, we were creating those scenes of you always hit the normal stuff, right? Drugs or alcohol. Like, there's only so much you can depict anymore. It makes it really hard to do drama because there's so many other hard-hitting things that you can't really show.
Sure.
So you just stick to the good old, give me the fake beer and this, whatever. But I felt like I'm torn because I agree with how this can be, especially bringing that friend and how's it going to hit them. But I felt like, in all the years that I've been a part of it, we were always trying to show, okay, well, here's that dilemma, here's that struggle, but then here's how to get out of it. It was always pointed to Jesus. It's always pointing at the friend who witnessed to them and helped them be there in their low. And so it didn't just cut from a car accident or a murder or hang, and then, oh, here's Jesus. They were showing how that person can come to there. So maybe sometimes we did a good job at that. Maybe we didn't. But but if you don't have any of that, you're not careful, then you are leaving people in limbo.
Well, I think that's what I would say. I don't know that I would be out on it. I think I would just say that this is risky. And it needs to be nuanced. And the reality is, like, when we get to the gospel, like, Jesus has saved you from something far worse than we can depict. But I think it's risky. I wouldn't say, again, I'm not saying I'm out. I know people who do them, I love them and they do a good job with them, to my understanding. I think that when we're talking about investing in someone and making that friendship and telling them about Jesus and trying to help them understand the gospel, that this might be a risky opportunity. I think there's maybe in a zero-sum game where we only have so much time and we have so much resource, this might be one I would pass on.
Yeah, I would agree. And because, I had spoke earlier bringing up the concern, but I know people who have led them, and I know what their intention were, and I know that they planned it out well. Yeah. Meaning that every decision they made was a decision to get somebody into place to have a conversation, and they're depicting things because hell is very real, and we need to have those conversations. But I've also been on that other side of doing an event, so now flash forward different phases of my life. Here I am now in my 20s, and we did a big event, and we had the inflatables, we did the pizza, we did all the fun things. And one of our students invited his entire soccer team. And in the end, we did this drama, and nobody knew we were going to do the drama. And it was very intense. And, that was the plan. And we're going to get them in for the fun. Yeah. But man, we want them to hear the gospel.
Absolutely.
We want to try to shock them because hell is real and the love of God is powerful. And I remember we did this drama, and there were, kids walking out, and, they're kind of stunned by it. And very emotional because they didn't see it coming. And when I checked in with some of my students and said, hey, how'd your friends feel about that? It was not what I thought the reaction was going to be. It was, I wasn't ready for that. Like, I don't know what to do now with this thing, because a lot of them weren't kids in that space. And so that was like the tactic, right? I kind of tricked you into this thing. And I think you guys are just talking about it. Is there a better way? Because I'm not out either. I think that's the thing. There might be someone listening and they're doing it. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong. I'm not out either, because I know there are people that have given their life to Jesus through this thing, and their life has changed. Like real commitment, real change. It's worked, yeah. So like, I'm not discrediting it. That's not what I'm saying. But I would like to lean into what you're saying. Is there a better way to share the gospel with somebody?
And I think it is coming back to what we're talking about. I think there's seasons for it now, because I'm a big drama guy, but I can't see how to do that in this space.
Gotcha.
Like, you know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
know how to do it, because one of the things, like, because I have a lot of great memories of seeing it from the audience standpoint and then being part of it, and I've gotten so much from it. One of the biggest things for me was I was partaking in a drama, and I died. And so there's this heaven scene, and there's a guy depicting Jesus, and I'm going up, and he's got the book of life. And it hit me so hard, because I just put myself in that imagine, like, I'm standing before him. What's he going to do? And of course, in that drama depicted, I got casted out. I'm like, afterwards, I'm like, yeah, I don't want that. You know what I mean? So maybe I was scared into it, but it did make me, as I grow older and I reflect back on it, like, that's very real.
Sure.
And you want people to know about it, but then how do you do it in the right space, in the right way? That's why I don't know that you could do the
because
same
it's
way
what
anymore.
it's not even just what's intended, and then there's what's communicated. But we're all professional communicators. We've all stood on a platform with a microphone on, and we had the notes in front of us, and we knew exactly what we were saying. And then someone later is like, "Hey, when you said this, it really meant a lot to me." And you're like, "I didn't say that. Like, that's not. I didn't say that." Because like sound does this weird thing when it leaves your mouth, words travel through air and then enter into your ear canal, someone else, and they're like, yeah, that's what you said. No, that's not what I said. Yeah. And so
I got the notes to prove it.
Yeah. And so that's where I think that's where it is risky. And like, to your point, like maybe it's just a season that for the church, I would say for the church, maybe the season has passed. If you're not a church, if you're like a nonprofit or a ministry or something that does these types of things, it might be better than just, guys and gals just trying to do this one time, once a year.
Well, and that's coming, right?
What's that?
You know that. I mean, when you bring in those companies, you kind of know what to expect. But you don't expect to go to inflatables and all this stuff like that, and then bam. Like,
that's true
that
too.
wasn't kind of set up.
It's true too. Yeah. Well, hey, let's do this. Let's talk through it, because no one's here. We got listeners that probably have we're probably hitting the whole perspective. Like, we probably have people listening who they pretend Halloween doesn't even happen. Like, they just don't acknowledge it. And I think there are brothers and sisters in Christ who need to do that. Like, it is a meat sacrifice to idols situation that Paul would talk about. Like, you need to run away from anything that even sniffs of darkness. And I get that. We also have people who are like fully embracing everything we're doing. They're making plans to hit all of the haunted houses in their town this Halloween.
The penitentiary.
And they love Jesus too.
Yeah.
So we're not here to divide that out, and we're not here to dunk on the church and the silly things that we did. We not only did we do them as kids and teens, like, we were all a part of them as leaders. What we are here to do is maybe talk through and think just some of the things that we read in preparing for this episode, or that we saw. Like, what do you think potentially were the unintended misunderstandings that we may have left people with in the wake of the Halloween event movement with the church? And we've got a lot of people in our age. I'm going to say our age, even though, Farnsworth over there is younger, much younger than me. You're just a little bit younger. He's much younger. But a lot of guys and ladies in our generation came through what we went through with the trunk or treat, or the Harvest Festival, or the Judgment House. They were a part of that culture in 1998 or somewhere in the 2000s, and they have dipped on faith. Like, they're done. And a part of it seems to me that there are some misunderstandings that are out there within, like, that deconstruction community, that are in that walk away community. And so, do you have thoughts on what the unintended misunderstandings may have been coming through this portion specifically?
Yeah, I think that maybe what has happened is we may have lost the grace and the love of God in the midst of this. Because we were trying to scare the hell out of people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And with good intentions, because we love people and we don't want them to go to hell. But in the midst of that, there may have been a decision made based off that. And then what we probably missed was discipleship.
Mm.
And I think that's something that we probably got to own more often than we realize as the Big C Church, is that no matter whether it's a Judgment House or Easter Sunday, and we preach the gospel, and we go after people in dark spaces and we pull them out, right?
Yeah.
When you bring somebody that's been in some dark spaces to the altar and they confess Jesus as Lord, it's easy for us to go, man, another one in the book of life, amen.
Yeah.
But then we'll just leave them at the altar. We don't disciple them. And I just wonder how many people went through an experience like that. And some of them maybe felt that. They felt the power of the Holy Spirit. They didn't want to go to hell. And maybe they did want the love of God, but they didn't quite understand what they were walking through because it was so emotional. And then afterwards, they fill out a card.
Yep.
And then, where do you go to church? What's your address? And you got a letter saying, hey, we're so glad you got saved. But then there was no discipleship. And I think that's the part maybe that we've lost in that. And if we're not discipling people, well, it's just a matter of time before, they're probably going to bail. And,
that's a good insight.
And they did. And I think maybe that's what we've lost.
It's a good insight. I think when I look back on it, what I'm afraid we may have communicated was that we wanted something from them, that we wanted something from people instead of wanting something for people. And the way that I think we got into it, in my experience, and this isn't so much, again, with the Judgment House exclusively, but just with event type evangelism events, whether it was the Harvest Festival or whatever, if you didn't get real clear, real early in your planning process, what you were after, what your goal was, the goal inevitably defaulted to next year will be bigger, better, more. And so then this year was great. We had this big a haunted house, and we had, this many people show up, and we had this many people sign the card that they had made a decision. So what's our goal next year? Well, next year we got to be bigger, we got to be better, we got to have more. And when we got into that, I don't know that anyone intended for that to ever be the goal of anything like this. But when that becomes the goal by default, because you haven't clearly articulated it, and I'm not talking about articulating it out loud or even holding it in your head, I'm talking like on paper, stated goal for why we would do this, then if you don't do that, it can very easily become, well, it's just got to be bigger than last year. It's just got to be better than last year. And we just got to have more people. And if that happens, I think the message we send to the people that are coming in can very quickly become, they just wanted me to come do their stuff.
Yeah.
They just wanted me to come do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
They just needed it to be bigger this year than it was last year. At which point we're now, from the church side, we're now entering into a transactional relationship with this person, where if you'll show up and make my event big and awesome, you get to have all the fun with it.
Yeah.
But that's not the relationship that I think God calls the church to have. I don't think that's the relationship that God wants believers to build with those who don't follow him yet. And so I think looking back on it, I think especially because of the nature and the sensationalism that goes into like Judgment House and goes into like the Halloween. I mean, it's a pretty sensational day. You dress up and it's candy and all that. I think that there was a great temptation for the goal of your Judgment House to be, or your Harvest Festival to be, let's just do bigger, better, more next year.
I think it's a fantastic point, because at the end of the day, we talk about the gospel, right? Mm-hmm. The reality is that I can do nothing to earn my salvation. I can't bring anything. It's transactional. If the deal is, well, I will give you my heart, Jesus, and you give me eternal life, that's a transaction.
Mm.
The reality of the gospel is it's not about what I can surrender. It's the fact that Jesus surrendered everything for me. And what does Paul say?
True.
To be saved, he says, you just have to confess that he's Lord and believe that God raised him from the dead, be saved. And so what you said there, I think, is really powerful. I think we do that, and we don't mean to, but
not at all.
That's the thing. It's like, what can you give me? Come to my thing, come do this. And I think that can seep into all the things that we do, right?
Yep.
And at the end, what are we trying to help people understand? It's not about what you can do for the church. It's about what God wants to do in your life.
Yeah.
Jesus wants to save you.
Absolutely.
Wants to change you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And
it's tricky.
tough.
It's tricky.
It's tricky because I'm not a youth pastor anymore.
Yeah.
And so now getting to be in the space working with their parents, and it's just funny what the mind does. It shifts, and now you're thinking about all those things now, and it's a little different. And you go, to your point, what am I communicating? And in the end, we say this all the time. You never know what it takes for somebody to walk into the door.
Right.
Whether it's showing up to church on a Sunday morning or showing up to an event that a church is hosting, you never know what it takes for someone to get there.
Yep.
And what we do in that moment matters, because in the end, just like all of our friends who have done the things, right? Whether it be Judgment House, an event, whatever, in the end, they want to see people come and get saved. That's what they want to see. But to your point, that might not be what we're actually doing.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Farnsworth, you got any closing thoughts on this topic, this subject?
Yeah, I just reiterate what you guys said, because that's what sticks out to me is, one, the churches or the people or whatever, they're just checking the box. Like you were saying, like we wanna get people saved. And so they're just going through checking that box. How many cards did we get at the end of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that leads to, because I remember the shift where it was taught to me and instructed to me when I was younger, and then me in turn had to turn around and teach it to my own students in youth ministry, is that you got to be with them along the way. You can't just invite them. Oh, I got them up front and then drop them. Like you're right. You got to continue that witnessing, continue guiding them, because they don't know. Like they just made the biggest decision in their life, and they're getting told that the old is dead, the new is I'm a new creation, whatever that means. I'm born again, whatever that means. Yeah. And then what am I supposed to change in my life? What do I have to sacrifice?
Everything.
What do I have to give up? You know what I mean? And that is so daunting.
Sure.
Or can be for certain people. And so if you just bring them and drop them, then that's what you see so many, I think, that made that emotional decision. Maybe it was legit, but then it was so easy for them to go right back, because there was no discipleship. There was no continuation of walking with them as a friend or as a youth pastor or leader, whatever. So that I agree in both those kind of points you guys were talking about. It's like, just it can't be a checking in the box type thing. And then it's more of that relational thing of walking with them where they are and helping them through that process of being a new creation. So.
Yeah, I think that's it. Because there's this subtle transition. Like, it is much easier to count decision cards than it is to build a friendship with the hopes of telling someone about Jesus. Like, those two things are very different. And sometimes we just go for the easy. But if you make this subtle transition in my mind, yes, generally speaking, I want everyone to come to know Jesus. I want people to get saved. But man, it wrecks your heart when it goes from I want people to be saved to I want this person to be saved. And that drive to tell people and to reach people is way more powerful. So anyway, I don't think we should show up and bang on the church or dunk on the church. That's not the point.
No,
we were a part of it. Like we're pointing the finger here, but just to say that, hey, we did it. Some people are still doing it. We've learned some stuff. We'll do better, and hopefully people will come to know the Lord because of this, because we're getting better at it. So, what else? Is this it? Adam Farnsworth, this is the first time I've ever done this. So you're going to have to, I don't know how to land here. Do we tell people that they can find us on social and they can tell us their terrible stories about Harvest Festival? Or good stories. They could be good. Maybe you have, you're that person that wants to tell us that that's how you got saved and met your wife and found your career. Like you could do that too.
Yeah. So hey, thanks for taking time to listen. This is the first episode. Let us know what you think. Hopefully this brought some value. Hopefully it encouraged you, made you think a little bit. Just like us, we're just trying to get better at this thing. And hey, for fun, just in the comments, drop your story. Whether it was, it was tough, right? Or man, maybe, you gave your life to Jesus. Maybe you met your wife at Judgment House. It changes the entire trajectory of your existence.
I for sure want to hear that. If you got saved, met your wife, and found your career at a Judgment House, drop that story in the comments.
Yeah, let us know. Either way, we're all in this thing together. And yeah, if you guys like it, then we'll do some more.
All right, that's it. Thanks. Bye.
That's it. See you later.